Few episodes of the Mongol conquests are as well known as Zev Noyan and Subedai Batar's famed pursuit of the Khwarezm Shah, Muhammad, and the expedition into southern Russia. In this video, we will introduce these two generals, then look at the pursuit of the Shah and battles in the Caucasus, in a separate video detailing the Rus and the Battle of the Kalka River in 1223, and later, Subedai's encounter with the Volga Bulgars. Zev was originally named Jurkodai of the Bezut, vassals to the Tatriot tribe who fought for Jamukha, Chinggis Khan's main rival for Mongolia. At the Battle of Khoyatin in 1201, Chinggis defeated Jamukha and the Tatriot, but in the battle, Jurkodai shot Chinggis' horse with an arrow. According to the secret history of the Mongols, afterwards, Jurkodai came forward and admitted responsibility, informing the Khan that if he was spared, he would serve him faithfully. His offer was accepted and was given the name Zev, meaning arrow, and took a lead role in the campaigns against the Jin dynasty and crushed Huchulug the Naiman in 1218. Zev was brave, often taking vanguard roles and leading from the front. Subedai Batar, the most famous Mongol general, was a master of warfare who fought across China, Central Asia, Iran, the Caucasus, Russia, and Eastern Europe. From the Uryanghat tribe, closely related to Chinggis Khan's own Mongols, his family had known Chinggises for several generations, from their great-great-grandfathers Tambanai Sechin and Nerbi. Subedai entered Chinggis' service around 1203, while Chinggis was at Lake Baljuna. His older brother also fought for the Khan, but died fighting the Naiman around 1204, and Subedai inherited his position as a commander of 100, and soon rose in rank. In March 1220, our generals were dispatched to hunt down the fleeing ruler of the Khwarezmian Empire, Shah Muhammad II. When Chinggis Khan struck in autumn 1219, Shah Muhammad was in Balkh, expecting the Mongols to be unable to overcome the walls of his cities or pass the great rivers of Transoxania, the Sirdarya and Amudarya. Experienced from their war against the Jin dynasty in China, and bringing Chinese siege engineers and weapons, the walls were breached and the rivers crossed. By February 1220, Chinggis Khan took Bukhara, one of the region's most important cities, and soon after Shah Muhammad fled Balkh, reaching Nishapur that April. At the Shah's capital of Samarkand, which fell to Chinggis in March, the great Khan learned of the Shah's flight and dispatched Zev with a Tumen in pursuit, followed by Subedai, who was in turn supported by Chinggis' son-in-law, Tokhuchar. Shah Muhammad left Nishapur after learning the Mongols had crossed the Amudarya. The Mongols first took the submission of a few cities like Balkh and Zarax, taking local guides. It seems there was an order to avoid sieges and plundering for speed in this part of the expedition, or at least against those who submitted. Herat offered its submission, yet Tokhuchar raided its territory, the most extreme breach of discipline in the whole campaign, and Tokhuchar was demoted. In May 1220, they reached Nishapur, which submitted. Perhaps its light treatment by the Mongols misled Nishapur, and it revolted that summer. Tokhuchar killed outside of their walls in November. As punishment, the population was slaughtered by Tolui in 1221. Shah Muhammad's flight from Nishapur, accompanied by his son Jalal al-Din, forced Zev and Subedai to split up. Zev traveled to Juvain, then to Mazandaran, while Subedai took his army through Jam onto Tus and Kumish. In Tus, many villages and towns freely submitted, while Zev's campaign through Mazandaran was very destructive. There, Zev captured Shah Muhammad's mother, Terken Hatun, his young children, and his harem. Terken Hatun was sent to Mongolia, where she died around 1232. One of Muhammad's daughters was given to Jagatai, while the male children were put to death. Zev and Subedai reconvened at Ray, finding the Shah's trail. His western route was hampered by the antagonism between him and the Caliph, who he had tried to attack in 1217, while one of the Shah's Atabegs suggested he go to Luristan and raise an army there, but ultimately sped to Hamadan. Here we are once more given contradictory accounts. Ibn al-Athir states the Shah fled Hamadan before the Mongols arrived, while Juvaini has the Mongols narrowly miss him with arrows before he fled to Shah Jahan. Nazavi, however, includes a battle between the Mongols and the Shah on the plain of Davlatabad near Hamadan. If true, the only engagement between the Shah and the Mongols during the entire campaign. Yet, around Hamadan, the Mongols lost him. Muhammad fled to the Caspian Sea, jumping along islands on the coast until he died, likely of pneumonia, in winter 1220. Delirious in his last hours, he changed his heir from Uzlag Shah to his eldest son, Jalal al-Din, appointing titles and lands which were no longer his to give, before succumbing to sickness and sheer mental and physical exhaustion. Winter 1220 was harsh with heavy snowfalls, which Zev and Subedey spent on the Mughan plain. It is unclear when they learned of Shah Muhammad's death, or whether they had even given up on finding him by this point. Some medieval authors have Zev and Subedey request permission from Chinggis at this point to continue their conquests, while in others, they had permission from the outset. In 1221, they turned to the Caucasus. Here it will be useful to provide some context for the 13th century Caucasus and neighboring area. This mountainous region was dominated since the 12th century by the Kingdom of Georgia, which had since the reign of King David the Builder developed a strong military and fortress system, noted for their heavy infantry and cavalry, which resisted repeated Seljuk invasions. Greater Armenia was under Georgian rule, and sometimes Georgian armies of this period are called Armeno-Georgian. Much of Azerbaijan was ruled through Georgia's vassals, the Muslim Shirvanshahs. South of the Shirvanshahs were the Eldeguzids, originally Seljuk appointees and longtime foes of Georgia. To the west were the Seljuks of Rum and the Armenian-ruled Kingdom of Cilicia in southeastern Turkey. Syria was ruled by great Salah ad-Din's Ayyubid successors, while in Iraq was the Abbasid Caliph and the regional Atabegs. Finally, north of the Caucasus were nomadic and semi-nomadic peoples like the Kipchaks and the Alans. Zev and Subedey fought the Georgians at least twice, though when and where is disputed. The first engagement occurred around February 1221, possibly near the Georgian capital of Tbilisi, or in the Iran region, north of the Mukhan plain. Either way, it was a crushing defeat for the Georgians. In spring, Zev and Subedey were south due to revolt and murder of their appointees in Iran. Maraga, Hamadan, Nakhichevan, Ardabil, Zarab, and Beylakan were all attacked, and the Eldeguzid Atabeg, Uzbek, submitted to them, ignoring Georgian requests for alliance against the Mongols. Later that summer, the Georgian city of Ganja was attacked, and shortly thereafter, they confronted the Georgian army led by King George Lasha and his Atabeg, Ivana Zakarian. On the river Kotman, the Georgian army caught Subedey with only a part of the Mongol force, and he fled before the might of Georgia towards the Hunan Valley. The disciplined Georgians pursued, not realizing they were falling for that favorite Mongol ploy, the feigned retreat. Zev and 5,000 warriors fell upon the rear of the Georgian army, and the king and the Atabeg narrowly escaped. By this point, perhaps early autumn, Zev and Subedey knew the Shah was dead, and had they sent messengers to Chinggis, they would have now returned, allowing them to move on, turning north again, possibly in order to subdue the Kipchak tribes. Subedey and Juchi had fought them several years before, for some had allied with Merkits, fleeing Mongolia. Harboring Mongol enemies was often a cause for conflict, and the Mongol Empire was still very much a steppe power. By now, the only challenger to the Mongols' steppe control was the great Kipchak-Cuman Confederation. Zev and Subedey possibly spent winter 1221 on the Mukhan plain again, and in 1222 advanced north, bypassing Georgia proper, either because the Georgians had a powerful army readied, or none at all, and the Mongols were more interested in the pass of Derbent. In Shirvan, they sacked Shamakhi, where supposedly they built a ramp from corpses of livestock and locals, fighting over the walls until their ramp decomposed and collapsed. At Derbent, they were unable to force the passage. Derbent was a city marked by its great citadel, tucked between the edge of the Caucasus and the Caspian Sea, unable to be forced without great loss. Zev and Subedey instead asked the Shah of Derbent to send envoys to discuss terms. One envoy was killed, and the other forced to lead the Mongols through the mountains. The route was a difficult one, but soon the Mongols were through the Greater Caucasus and on the edge of the Great Eurasian Steppe, where they found an army of Kipchaks and Alans waiting for them. Perhaps notified by the Shah of Derbent, Zev and Subeday's tired force was outnumbered, trapped between the mountains and the army before them. But where the sword fails, words make do. Zev and Subeday sent envoys to the Turkic Kipchaks, asking why peoples of shared heritage should fight each other. Probably more convincing was the valuable gifts also given, and the Kipchaks abandoned the coalition. With the Kipchak gone, Zev and Subeday fell upon the isolated Alans, and then caught their Kipchak brothers and crushed them too. Some Kipchak escaped and flew west to the unsuspecting principalities of the Rus, the Mongols hot in pursuit. The Russian peoples were about to meet the Mongols for the first time. This ends the first part in our series with Zev and Subeday. When we next return to our valiant friends, we will look at the famous battle on the Kalka River, and then the ambush by the Volga Bulgars. Possibly before then, we may look at the siege of Gurganj, but we'll keep our options open. In future, we will also discuss the incorporation of Georgia and the neighboring kingdoms into the Mongol Empire.